This is about him trying to dodge accountability, victims, and blame anyone but himself for his problems, especially me. Rather than pay back his victims fully, Logan would rather publicly humiliate himself in court by accusing me of defaming him.
Or with him saying that Logan's lawsuit isn't actually about the original investigation into CryptoZoo, but about 2 videos and a tweet that focus on Logan paying back the alleged victims.
Remember, there are 2 parts to CryptoZoo, the NFTs and the Zoo tokens, and Logan chose only to refund the NFTs, which is a minority of the losses, and I had a major problem with that.
With him claiming that Logan himself has referred to the people who lost money as victims and therefore should be willing to hold himself accountable here. Also claiming that nothing in his coverage should count as defamation because Logan had already had a bad reputation when it came to crypto schemes before all this. And then also saying that defamation involves malice and Logan had praised his reporting in the past.
This journalist, YouTuber, crypto uncoverer guy named CoffeeZilla, who's incredible, by the way. A very thorough, good-hearted, smart guy.
Right, and so with all that, Stephen claims that Logan's allegations have no merit. But with that, what he says Logan does have is money, which Stephen is struggling with, saying that his insurance company isn't covering this lawsuit, which is also why he announced that you can support him over on Patreon, or he's also selling t-shirts to raise legal funds. You know, with all this, depending on where you go on the internet, drastically different reactions. Where you go one place and seemingly a lot of Logan's fans don't care about any of this, but then you go to Stephen's video, which has passed 4 million views in less than 24 hours, and people are very anti-Logan, with top comments including Logan Paul dealing with the consequences of his own actions, impossible, as well as the fact that he'd rather go through all this and hire 5 lawyers rather than pay some people back some money is wild, definition of a scumbag. And finally, Legal Eagle dropping the shocked Pikachu face. Right, but all of that is the court of public opinion, and as far as what happens in real court, we'll have to wait and see. And then it's Tim Walz. It's always been Tim Walz, even though most of us did not know really who he was until like the last 2 weeks. I mean, the man called some Republican politicians weird on TV, and he went from a virtual unknown outside of Minnesota to the Dem VP nominee, with Kamala Harris officially announcing that her VP pick is, yes, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz this morning. Right, and so let's talk about who the hell is this guy? Well, for one thing, he has a super different background and appeal from Harris, which is really the whole point here. He's a 60-year-old governor who was born and raised in rural Nebraska, joined the Army National Guard after high school, and served for 24 years. Then after that, he went to college, got a teaching degree, and then moved with his wife to her home state of Minnesota, where he worked as a high school teacher and a football coach for about a decade before he decided to run for office, with him in 2006 winning his race to represent Minnesota's rural 1st District, successfully flipping it from red to blue. While in Congress, Walz was largely regarded as a moderate Democrat, with him being known during that time for a number of things, including his support of gun rights, earning him actually backing from the NRA. But then notably, after winning re-election for his seat 5 more times, Walz decided to run for governor in the 2018 race, and from that point on, he started to shift to the left, with him becoming increasingly more progressive on a number of issues, including gun rights, with him even saying that his then 17-year-old daughter pleaded with him to do more to prevent gun violence after the Parkland shooting. So actually, while on the campaign trail, he donated all the money he had ever gotten from the NRA to charity, and he started pushing for some gun control measures like background checks and getting rid of reciprocal carry agreements between states. And while he now supports some restrictions, Walz himself is still a gun owner who hunts birds and is proud of it. But then also, beyond guns, his progressive shift expanded to plenty of other issues as well after winning the race for governor, with Vice President Harris even noting many of the progressive policies that he's enacted since taking office in her post announcing it, with that including tax cuts for working families, setting paid family and medical leave requirements, and making Minnesota the first state to pass a law providing constitutional abortion protections after Roe was overturned. But then also, beyond what Harris listed, Walz has enacted a number of other high-profile progressive policies, with this including providing free college tuition for low-income students and free meals for school children, legalizing recreational marijuana, and creating protections for trans folks. He's also championed environmental policies, with the New York Times even describing him as one of the nation's most forceful advocates for tackling climate change. But again, what's really wild is how quickly he has blown up, because he has gained a lot of national attention in recent weeks, largely due to numerous mainstream cable news appearances that have gone viral, with him specifically there getting traction and centering himself prominently in the national discourse by repeatedly calling Trump, Vance, and other Republican politicians weird.
We do not like what has happened where we can't even go to Thanksgiving dinner with our uncle because you end up in some weird fight that is unnecessary. and I think bringing back people together, well, it's true. These guys are just weird. And it's, you know, they're running for He-Man Women Haters Club or something. These are weird people on the other side. They want to take books away. They want to be in your exam room. That's what it comes down to. And don't, you know, get sugarcoating this. These are weird ideas. Listen to them speak. They're awkward. And it stems from who's asking for this crazy stuff? Who's asking to raise the price of insulin? Who's asking to get rid of birth control? They do these focus groups or whatever. Who's sitting in a bar in Racine, Wisconsin saying, what we really need? We need to ban Animal Farm. Nobody is. They're talking about real things. These guys are just weird. That's who they are. So it isn't much else. Don't give them the power. Look, are they a threat to democracy? Yes. Are they going to take our rights away? Yes. Are they going to put people's lives in danger? Yes. Are they going to endanger the planet by not dealing with climate change? Yes. They're going to do all that. But don't lift these guys up like they're sometimes heroes. The fascists depend on fear. The fascists depend on us going back. But we're not afraid of weird people. No. We're a little bit creeped out, but we're not afraid.
That viral appeal, it absolutely slingshotted Walz into the public eye and the VP pick. I mean, he's got this certain charisma that a lot of politicians lack. He has a kind of accessibility to him. He explains things fantastically. I think a lot of Democrats, when they're talking about policy or they're trying to defend something, they emit something that's a bit like a word soup fucked a thesaurus. And it feels like he's got this down-to-earth, likable, relatable thing going. As far as wider net appeal, he's a vet, a gun owner, a former teacher. He's the first Democratic VP pick since fucking 1964 that hasn't gone to law school. He's got a long record as a moderate, but he's also implemented sweeping progressive policies. And notably, he's able to speak and defend those policies in a way that I think most people understand.
What a monster. Kids are eating and having full bellies so they can go learn, and women are making their own healthcare decisions.
Right, so while he's not staunchly middle of the road and from a swing state like most of Harris's other top contenders, the idea here is that he will actually appeal to more voters in more states. Right, rather than just targeting one key state with a more zeroed-in pick who might not have as much appeal in other key states. Which, definitely was one of the big appeals of a Josh Shapiro as VP. It's widely believed that the road to the White House could be paved through Pennsylvania. But also with Walz specifically, while Minnesota might not be a key state, other Midwestern states like Michigan and Wisconsin absolutely are. And there are many that believe that Walz's Midwestern roots and Big Ten platform will help the campaign a lot in those battlegrounds. That's definitely something that we've seen reflected in a lot of responses from a ton of people across the political spectrum who have cheered Walz's selection. Right, you've got Nancy Pelosi characterizing Walz as right down the middle, calling him a heartland of America Democrat. But that also echoed by other moderates, including many who were top contenders to be Harris's VP and who applauded the selection, with some like Pete Buttigieg notably highlighting Walz's Midwestern voice. But then also equally important, there we saw a ton of progressives rallying behind the pick, like Representative Ilhan Omar, who represents Minnesota, as well as AOC, tweeting, Vice President Harris made an excellent decision in Gov Walz as her running mate. Together, they will govern effectively, inclusively, and boldly for the American people. They won't back down under tight odds either. From healthcare to school lunch, let's do this. We also saw some anti-Trump Republicans applauding Walz's selection. But then, of course, on the other side, we saw most conservatives railing against Walz, with many of them, including Trump's campaign, painting him as far left, with a campaign spokesperson calling Walz a dangerously liberal extremist who is obsessed with spreading California's dangerously liberal agenda far and wide and only pretends to support Americans in the heartland. You also had Ron DeSantis making a similar claim, calling the Harris-Walz combo the most left-wing ticket in American history. Also with that, going on to say that Minnesota was ground zero for the BLM riots of 2020. And that's definitely something that we've seen a lot of other Republicans seizing on, with them arguing that he didn't respond fast or strong enough to the riots that broke out in Minnesota following the police murder of George Floyd, which is also something that J.D. Vance has already seized on, saying at a rally in Pennsylvania today that Walz is a radical who let rioters burn down Minneapolis. But hey, with all that said, another milestone is down. VP pick has officially been announced. We have the Democratic National Convention coming up, and we are 90 days away from Election Day. So yeah, now would be a very good time to double check that you are registered to vote, and if you know you're not, sign up to vote. I'll link to resources down below, but you can also just go to vote.org. Be part of the process, because one, this is the most important election since the last most important election. Two, there's a lot to vote on. It's not just the presidency. There's a lot of stuff locally that matters. And three, yes, you vote for the change that you want to see in the world, but also, if you lose, you get to complain. And isn't that the most important thing, to have the moral high ground so you can be the most whiny bitch version of yourself? I mean, that's how I operate in my life. And then, so would you consider your home the sanctuary that it could be, a place of refuge and comfort? Well, it can be with the help of our fantastic sponsor and partner of the PDS, Cozy Earth. Right? Even during these hot summer nights, I can still say I have never slept better than with Cozy Earth sheets. Made with viscose from bamboo, their bedding is designed to naturally regulate temperature, keeping you cool when the heat is relentless. Basically, the ultimate ingredient for a luxurious sleep is softness. And Cozy Earth's use of only the best fabrics and textiles, it enhances that. And you'll experience sanctuary not only with Cozy Earth sheets, but with their bath sheets and towels as well. Crafted with a unique blend of cotton and bamboo viscose using innovative zero-twist technology, these towels are awesome. Like seriously, every Cozy Earth Earth product has the softest, most uniquely soft fabric that actually holds up and doesn't pill. In fact, they're so confident in their bedding products that they offer a 100-night sleep trial and a 10-year warranty. So this summer, transform your home into a sanctuary by going to cozyearth.com/DeFranco and enter code DeFranco at checkout, and you'll get up to 40% off this time. It's promo code DeFranco for 40% off. And also get some free Cozy Earth socks when you tell them that I sent you in the post-purchase survey. Cozy Earth. You deserve it. And then, y'all, Google just took an L. They got sucker punched, and it could completely change the entire tech industry. And I'll explain, right? See, U.S. District Judge Ahmet Mehta just ruled that Google has acted illegally to maintain their